Hey fellow dog lovers, Josh here from Spoil My Pets, and today I want to talk to you guys about an important part of being a dog owner, and that's your dog's diet. I'm going to go over the most toxic foods that your dog should never have. First up on our list is alcohol. Dogs should never be given alcohol in any amount, whether it's beer, wine, liquor. Dogs weigh considerably less than we do, so their bodies are impacted much more than ours. Here's some signs to look for if you think your dog has alcohol poisoning. So it's slowed movement, lethargy, increased thirst and urination, and vomiting. Next one on our list is a little less common, but extremely toxic to dogs, and that's xylitol. Xylitol is a sugar alcohol that's found in a lot of our products, from our toothpaste to sugar-free foods, to mouthwash, and even gum. The Pet Poison Hotline actually cites that 80% of their cases are gum containing xylitol. The reason xylitol is so poisonous to dogs is because when it enters their bloodstream, it produces a massive spike in their insulin levels, which puts a lot of strain on their pancreas and can cause other harmful side effects. If you think your dog is ingesting the xylitol, look for these common symptoms. These are acute weakness, staggering, vomiting, seizures, and sometimes even coma. Third up on our list is grapes and raisins. Now, I've seen a lot of people actually write on forums about how they feed their dog grapes, and they don't even know it's toxic for them. So you'd be surprised at how many people don't know that this is actually so bad for our pets. No matter what size dog you have, they should never be given grapes. It can cause kidney damage and even sudden failure of the organs. So here's some signs to look for if you think your dog has ingested grapes. And that's vomiting, diarrhea, loss of appetite, in more extreme cases, seizures, and even coma. The next one on my list is pretty surprising because it's such a great food for humans, but that's the avocado. Avocados are marketed as one of the healthiest foods for us, but unfortunately not for our dog friends. The active ingredient that's toxic to dogs in avocados is persin. And let's not also forget the giant seed in the middle. If your dog was to actually get a hold of that and eat it, it could be a choking hazard or actually cause intestinal blocking, which is a very expensive surgery. Now, if your dog got a hold of an avocado, some signs to look for are diarrhea and vomiting. The vomiting could be, if they got a hold of that seed, caused from the intestinal blockage. This one on our list is more common, but I want to include it for safe measure just so everyone knows, but it's chocolate. I want to tell you guys a little story. When I first got my dog, she was a chocolate lab, ironically enough, and she got into, at 4 months, a whole bag of chocolate. We called the vet and they said bring her in right away because of how much she ingested. When we got there, they gave her charcoal, which she surprisingly ate up because she's a lab and eats everything in sight. I'm sure you other lab owners can totally understand that. It absorbs the toxins from the charcoal and induces vomiting. So she was totally fine after that. Chocolate contains theobromine and caffeine, and when it gets into a dog's system, it overloads their nervous system and also increases their heart rate dramatically. Chocolate poisoning, you can usually see the signs within 6 to 12 hours, but can last up to 72 hours. Depending on how much they've eaten will be what course of action. Sometimes you can take care of it at home and other times you have to go to the vet. Here are the signs to look for if your dog's had too much chocolate. And that would be vomiting, diarrhea, restlessness, and in some rare cases, collapse and even death. Next on the list is onions and garlic. A small amount of onions won't really hurt your dog, but it's when they're consumed in large quantities. It's a cumulative effect of onions. The more they eat, the more toxins build up in their system. So it's best just to stay away from onions altogether. Here's what you should watch out for if your dog's ingested onions: lethargy, weakness, decreased appetite, and even fainting. Next on the list is one of my personal favorite things, but not so great for our furry friend, and that's coffee. The sweet nectar of the gods. Even if your dog's not a morning person, you shouldn't brew them a nice big bowl of coffee. Dogs are much more sensitive to the effects of coffee than we are, and it affects them much like chocolate. It decreases their heart rate, affects their nervous system, it causes them to go into overdrive. So they'll have zoomies like you wouldn't believe. Here's some signs to look for if your dog has had too much caffeine. They're super hyper, restless, if they have elevated heart rate, seizures, and in rare cases, collapse. So even though I love coffee, it's a no-no for our dogs. Next one on the list is cherries. Now, I've been guilty of feeding my dog cherries without knowing that they were harmful for them, but luckily, it's only the stem and the pit that are dangerous for them. And that's because the stem and the pit contain cyanide. Cyanide disrupts your dog's cellular oxygen transport, and their red blood cells can't get enough oxygen. So if you remove the stems and the pits, it's okay to feed your dog cherries in small amounts. But if they have gotten a hold of them and they have cyanide poisoning, some of the things to look for are dilated pupils, check if their gums are red, and in other cases they'll have difficulty breathing. And the final one on our list is mushrooms. And there's thousands of mushrooms, and only about 100 of them are toxic to dogs. Of those 100 mushrooms, a certain amount of them are extremely poisonous to dogs, even if a small amount's ingested. A good rule of thumb is that if you go in the grocery store, most of those mushrooms are safe for your dog, but because there's 100 mushrooms or so that are poisonous to dogs, I personally stay away from them altogether. There's so many other great fruits and vegetables your dogs can have safely. So some of the common signs of mushroom toxicity in dogs is vomiting, diarrhea, weakness, lethargy, seizures, and sometimes even coma. So even though I want you guys to use this video as a guide on what not to feed your dogs, if your dog has ingested any on these lists, call your vet immediately because they'll know the best route of action to take. If for some reason you can't get a hold of your vet because it's a holiday or something, I'm going to link below the ASPCA Animal Poison Control Center number. So give them a call if you need. They're a great resource. And please drop a comment below if I missed any foods that you think should have been on the list, or just any stories that you want to share that could help other dog owners. If you guys found this video helpful, please subscribe, give us a like, or drop a comment. I'm also going to link below the full article so you can read it in depth.